These people get
Broken down
trapped in an
perfectly.
elevator and they have no cell reception. So they use the call button to call the building concierge. But the concierge refuses to call the fire department.
You guys refuse to call the fire department because you're gonna save money. Is that the case?
The procedure is for the security on site to do that, but I've let them know.
Yeah, but call the fire. I'm not calling it because it costs $10,000 to get fire department here. It's a way to save money.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man. Just coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Comment down below. Greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
When I look at you, I can't believe it's true. You're all I ever dreamed.
So I can tell you why that figure is weird. This figure depicts the child version of a famous character in Japan known as Super Sonico. Now, according to Wikipedia, Super Sonico is typically portrayed as an 18-year-old college student. Of course, she has to be 18, barely above the legal age. And this character is absolutely hyper-sexualized. Like almost every single image that I can find online, it was very, very sexualized. And you know that there are people out there who really deeply get off to stuff like this. Especially a character like this whose every image and portrayal is hyper-sexualized. I mean, I challenge you, Google the name and look for an image that isn't dirty in some way. So when a character is typically portrayed in ways like this, which leads people to develop crushes on the character and, do things while they're looking at the character, if you know what I'm saying, and then you release a child version of that character as a toy, covered in some sort of white cream. I'm not even going to really describe the rest of this thing. I think you guys can tell what is so wrong about this. And I just cannot believe that they would actually not only create this toy, but go on to sell it, promote it to people, and try to turn this into something that it never should have been in the very first place. So that's why it's disturbing in my opinion. If you want to hear me rant more about topics like this, listen to my podcast, The Conspiracy Files, available on all streaming platforms. The show's also on YouTube.
These people get
Broken down
trapped in an
perfectly.
elevator and they have no cell reception. So they use the call button to call the building concierge. But the concierge refuses to call the fire department.
You guys refuse to call the fire department because you're gonna save money. Is that the case?
The procedure is for the security on site to do that, but I've let them know.
Yeah, but call the fire department. It's emergency.
So they're stuck in this elevator for an hour and a half. They were apparently in there so long that the woman who was in there with them is about to pass out. So they start begging.
We have a woman that's about to pass out. What's not emergency?
I need to get out, please, please, please.
But the concierge still refuses to call the fire department to let them out, saying,
Sickening.
just wait on our technician.
The fire department will also wait on the technicians as well. And even
So why is she refusing to call the fire department? So apparently the fire department will fine the building if they have to come out too many times for things like elevator problems.
You're not calling it because it costs $10,000 to get fire department here. It's a way to save money.
So a lot of these buildings will do everything they can to avoid calling them. And people want to call the fire department because, firemen get there fast. And as part of the fire code, they have access to the elevator room and they have elevator keys to like every operational elevator in the city. So when the concierge said firemen wait for the technician,
the fire department will also wait on the technicians as well.
Cap.
hell no, they don't. Firemen don't wait for anybody. Fire department will cut your damn front door open just to get you out. Those guys don't play around. So eventually, you can guess what happened. The woman passed out, or maybe she's taking a nap. I don't know, the footage doesn't actually specify. But the concierge never called the fire department, and the people trapped in the elevator had to wait an hour and a half for the building maintenance guy to show up and let them out. I'm gonna take a wild guess here and say that that building is getting sued.
Every once
Heck yeah, what's soothing, bro? Them trying to save a measly 10K, man, but a woman's about to pass out. That's just shameful, man. Shameful activity right there. I'm stuck in the elevator for an hour and you refuse to call the fire department, man, because you trying to save some money? Nah. You gonna lose weight. You gonna lose some more money, man, when I hit you with that freaking with that lawsuit. Somebody coming out of their coins, man.
in a while, animals will do things that not even science can fully explain, and apparently, That's what happened in 2005. Because that's when a 12-year-old Ethiopian girl was kidnapped and beaten by a group of men who were trying to get her to marry one of them. Nasty work, repugnant even. After being missing for over a week, it was getting to the point where her family was just expecting the worst. But eventually she was found, except with a different kind of predator. Because according to the story, they found the injured and traumatized girl surrounded by a group of lions, almost like they were guarding her. And once police arrived, the lions calmly retreated back into the forest like they clocked out of a shift or something. Which has led many people to believe that not only did the lions chase off her attackers, they stayed with her until help came. Now what a lot of scientists believe actually happened is that the little girl's cries might have sounded like that of a lion cub, and since lions are naturally wary of people, honestly, couldn't blame them. Once the police, aka other humans, arrived, that's when the lions decided to fall back. But we've also seen lions do things like this. I'm not gonna act like I know the answer, but sometimes you gotta just stop asking why and just appreciate what's in front of you. The more you know.
Scariest urban legend from each state, part 4. Robert the doll from Florida. A young boy named Eugene was gifted this doll as a birthday present. Eugene had Robert sleep next to him every single night, until a random night where Eugene woke up and saw Robert sitting across the room from him. After that night, things changed. They noticed every night that they heard footsteps in the attic, and something running up and down the stairs. He was inhabited by some demonic spirit, even having the neighbors say that they saw Robert looking through the window of the attic every single night. Robert is currently in an extremely safe spirit box in the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. It's stated if you make eye contact or take a picture with Robert without his permission, some seriously bad things can happen to you.
Stay away from Robert, bro. Good thing he didn't go missing like the Annabelle doll. That was a saga, man. But they found her, right? I'm going to say they found her and they put her back in their, I guess, special box or something.
Disturbing facts that'll keep you awake. Apparently 30% of people see strange things in a hallway when it's pitch black. Are you one of those people? And I found this next one pretty disgusting. But did you know bed mattresses gain weight over time? Due to all the dead skin, sweat and bodily fluids we have. And did you know unlike other predators, bears won't try to kill you before eating you. A bear will just start eating straight away. But the good thing is, if a bear is following you, you'll most likely hear him. But if a mountain lion is following you, you're most likely done for. And while on the topic of animals, did you know tarantulas travel in swamps of tens of thousands? And apparently there's a town in Australia where this phenomenon actually happens once a year, and it's terrifying.
I would not be going there. What the hell?
Normal things you should never do in Japan. Alright, so first you should never blow your nose in public, because apparently it's considered impolite and people might start staring at you. So try finding a private place to do it. Next, it is pretty common to wear shoes indoors, right? But in Japan you have to remove your shoes when you go into someone's house. If you don't, it might be the last time they invite you. And I'm sure if you're from the US, you've given a tip before, right? But if you do it in Japan, it is considered rude, and some places don't even accept it at all. But finally, if you have tattoos but you want to go to public baths, you will most likely be denied, because tattoos are still associated with organized crime, such as the Yakuza and other gangs.
Damn,
Creepy facts you probably don't know, but you're about to. Part 2. At one time, doctors thought that babies didn't feel pain. It took up until 1987 for the American Academy of Pediatrics to declare that it was unethical to operate on babies without anesthesia. So that means for years, babies were forced to just sit there and suffer through surgery without any form of pain control or anesthetics. So yeah, that's kind of scary.
It truly is, man.
Hearing those, I'm sorry, but that's why
you should never do this. This is 17-year-old Michael Dumas. He was on a church trip to Florida with some of his friends. While on this trip, they went to Pompano Beach, and he would be buried in the sand as you see here. He'd soon be unburied and all would be well until later that night when he would wake up in the middle of the night and be itching like crazy and sweating. At first, this would be labeled as an ear infection and he would be sent home with drops. But it would soon be obvious that that's not what it was, as he started to develop these raised, bumpy rashes. And he became pretty lethargic, just wanting to sleep all the time. It got even worse to the point where he was having these big, nasty blisters. And that's when he'd finally be diagnosed with cutaneous larva migrans, which is pretty much dog or cat hookworm. So pretty much these work by the dog or the cat pooping in the sand and contaminating it, and then not long after, these microscopic larvae hatch, and then you step in this contaminated sand and you end up looking like Michael. After all of this, he ended up developing a staph infection as well, And if it's not bad enough just him getting infected, 5 others from this trip got infected with hookworm as well.
Disturbing body facts that might ruin your day. If you have a surgery where your other organs need to be moved around, they might not function a day after the surgery because the body assumes they're just dead. Next, the brain is the last thing to function when you pass away, meaning in most cases you will hear, feel and smell your last moments on Earth. And it's possible to die from a pimple. Let me explain. If a pimple gets infected, let's say from you itching it, the infection could get into your bloodstream, causing you to have an intense fever. Then a few days later you will start having seizures and vomiting everywhere, so try not to play too much with your pimples. And finally, it's possible to get brain damage from a toothache, because if you have a tooth infection, there's a high chance of it getting to the brain if it's not taken care in time.
I had that a couple of days ago, man. Toothaches are the worst.
Celebrity chef and host of Worst Cooks in America, Anne Burrell, was found dead in her New York home this morning. Dead at the relatively young age of 55. If you don't know who Anne was, she was the host of one of America's most popular food shows, Worst Cooks in America. Side note, I was actually cast on this show a few years ago. They flew me out to New York City. I got to meet the cast that ended up filming that season. Now, they did end up replacing me and then flying me out back home. I never made it onto the show and I never got to meet Anne. But if I would have been given the chance, I would have loved to have competed. Anne was born in 1969 in New York. She discovered her love for food at a young age. She attended various culinary institutes before moving into the restaurant world, and eventually she made her way into television, and finally at one point was cast in the starring role in the television show Worst Cooks. Now, just 5 days ago, Anne posted this photograph on her Instagram, and strangely enough, she looks glowing. She looks incredibly happy and healthy. And an official cause of death has not been released yet. I couldn't find any information about this anywhere, and so it's really unknown exactly what happened here and why it happened. But Anne is definitely going to be missed by all. RIP to her. And yeah, if there are any more significant updates, I'll be sure to hop on and make another video for you guys.
The Teletubbies conspiracy theory claims that the show was inspired by events that happened in a Bulgarian mental facility called La La Land. Children there were isolated from the others and placed in dark rooms. But apparently 4 of those children died on the same day, inspiring the Teletubbies. Lala apparently had facial disfigurement and was isolated for 5 years, and that inspired the Teletubby Lala. Toite was a deaf, facially disfigured kid who was tied to a fence outside and had gotten frostbitten from the cold. This inspired Tinky Winky. Donka, who was starved and was very, very sick, would lay in his own vomit for days, inspired Dipsy. And finally, Paulina, who had fell into a fire and was roasted alive, inspired Poe. But you won't believe the reason they were called the Teletubbies. You see, the children's main source of entertainment in their rooms were their TVs. They were as small as a small iPad. Sometimes when they heard their toys was going to be confiscated, they would hide them in their mouths. And they had just found out that the institution was going to get rid of the TVs. And they didn't want that, and they couldn't hide the TVs in their mouths. So one of them had the great idea to hide them in their stomachs, because that's the only place they could fit. Mind you, these kids are a little bit not all the way there. So they came up with a plan to rip their insides out in order to fit the TVs inside and hide them. They tried it, and the next morning, the caregiver walked in on all 4 children dead.
Creepy theory, man. But I heard that the Teletubbies conspiracy theory is supposed to be cat. And like I said, see, because we all
guys, you're gonna like this one. We have an internet magician, the card guy, who wants to get barbecued. All right then. Man, first of all, you look like Tom Hardy if he worked at Applebee's. You look like a present-day Screech. And bro, what is up with those big-ass ears? Can you hear the future? Do you use a shower head as earbuds? And what does Neptune sound like? And that's a pretty sick beard there, Meth Rogan. Yeah, I guess if I did street magic, I'd want to hide my face too. And yeah, what kind of magic tricks do you do? I mean, you're pretty good at making smiles disappear. And do you call yourself card guy because you have to card the women you date? And what was it like being on that episode of Futurama? And was that you in that video screaming, "Just do it"? All right, card guy, there's your roast, man. Hey, dude, your magic tricks are really cool. Keep up the good work. But there's one trick I really think you should try. I want you to do that one that Siegfried and Roy did.
Damn, online roast, bro.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew, Part 5. Despite if you're using incognito mode, Wi-Fi routers actually keep logs of what websites you visit, and the owner of the router can check this whenever they want. So hopefully you don't have anything to hide. A woman in Russia had a shit ton of twins, triplets, and quadruplets with the same man, totaling to 69 children.
What the?
Nice. Tarantulas taste like shrimp. According to some cannibals, the most delicious part of the human body is the eyeball, and they especially like licking them. The skin on your lips is the same skin that's on your butthole. Dolphins sometimes bite off the head of a fish and masturbate into the decapitated body. A bubble caused by false vacuum decay could be growing through our universe right now, destroying everything it touches, and we would have no idea because it travels at the speed of light. 2020, please no.
Scary facts you wish you never knew. There's a shack called the Devil's Toy Box in Louisiana, and for some reason people who go in lose their minds. You know the tingly feeling you get when you eat a pineapple? Well, that's because the pineapple is eating you. It has an enzyme called bromelain, and that enzyme eats meat, which you're made of. I'm gonna stick to watermelon. No one can comment on this video and get 0 likes. Sharks have been around for 420 million years, meaning they have survived all 4 big mass extinctions, making them older than dinosaurs, Mount Everest, and even some trees on this planet. Yet we could potentially see them go extinct in our lifetime. The person who invented homework came up with the idea as a punishment for his students. Now you can check if your phone activity is being monitored. Just click on share, slide all the way to the end, click more, and if any apps appear before your contacts, you should delete it immediately. This is a photo of Lyndon B. Johnson. In it, he's being sworn as president, just 2 hours after JFK was unalived. And the woman he's standing next to is Jackie Kennedy, who still had her husband's blood on her shirt. Lyndon B. Johnson turned to his friend, Albert Thompson, while Albert smirked and winked back. The photographer who captured the picture called the photo completely sinister. Doja Cat scares me. Studies show that people who like and follow me get smarter every day.
Let's talk about one of the worst torture methods in history. This brings us to something called the tub. So as you see here, the chosen one would be crammed into a wooden tub with only their head exposed. They would then have milk and honey smeared and poured on top their head and face. Then brings the flies. These flies and other insects just swarm to the person attracted by this milk and honey, and there they just continue to annoy the person, causing them extreme distress and discomfort. If that's not bad enough, then you're stuck in this wooden tub in agony with all these bugs all over you, and you can't move at all because you're crammed in there so tight. And to really just torture them even more, they'd feed the person over and over again, which, you know, makes you gotta go. And I'm sure you can imagine how that goes, with it eventually piling up until it's just covering all around you. This would then lead to the maggots and the worms, which come from this, and they pretty much just eat you alive. It's said the longest a person lasted in this was 17 whole days, and they pretty much decayed alive.
Now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. So the other day, a Reddit user posted this photo to Reddit. It's of his apartment at night. He had been complaining of hearing rustling noises in his apartment over the last couple nights. Many users thought they could kind of see something in this area of his kitchen, but I couldn't, so I looked at the brightened version. This is the photo brightened. And I know what you're gonna say, yes, it does look like Keanu Reeves, but look at how tall he is compared to the fridge. But it gets so much worse. This is a video he took of his apartment at night where you can see something happen to the light in the kitchen. But let's look at the brightened version.
You can see the shadow right there, bro.
Yes, it's terrifying, but is it a ghost?
I don't know. I think that somebody in his house. That ain't really no ghost. You might have a squatter.
I found this while thrifting. Is this art or something else?
Careful when you're thrifting, or you might run into something like this. This, my friends, is a porcelain doll. Click the plus, drop a like, tag a friend, share with 3, or this might come after you. Though it's actually stated that most porcelain dolls are actually extremely haunted, of spirits that don't want to be messed with. You see how it's perfectly woven? It needs to stay that way. Those knots are not meant to come undone. Who knows what lives inside of that doll? I think the best plan of attack is to put that doll back exactly where you found it. Hopefully it's not too late. Hopefully you didn't already take it home, or show people, or even try and open the doll all the way. Because if that's the case, well, things are gonna get really weird in your life. Everyone always jokes about the Annabelle doll, but if you think about it, it's in a giant glass case with pages from the Bible in it to keep what's ever inside of it inside of that case. I would put it back before it's too late.
Yeah, I know we don't do dolls over here, Seekers, man. They creeping to me.
3 ways to survive a Skinwalker. Number 1. Don't ever whistle in the woods. No matter if it's daytime or nighttime, that's a calling signal, meaning that you're letting the Skinwalker know exactly where you are. Number 2. Pray as hard to whatever you believe in as possible. Skinwalkers are demonic creatures, being so that they were transformed this way because they are cannibals, and have killed before. Number 3. White ash tree rubbed bullets may be one of the only other ways to stop a Skinwalker in its tracks. Of course, most people don't have those laying around, so if you're in an area where you think you may or may not be able to run into one, you may want to pack those just in case. Don't forget to like and follow for another episode.
This ride malfunction might be a symptom of a much bigger problem. This video shows the moment where the Atmosphere ride at Oaks Amusement Park in Oregon malfunctioned, leaving 28 people hanging upside down for 30 minutes. Hazen Hathorn was one of the riders on the ride, and a fun fact is that he doesn't have freckles. Those are all broken blood vessels that occurred from hanging upside down for so long. We don't know exactly why the ride malfunctioned just yet. There's still an investigation ongoing, but this is maybe a symptom of a much bigger issue that's happening. And that's the fact that in America, there's little to no regulations for theme park rides, meaning there's not really a standard for how often rides are maintained to be deemed safe. I literally just did a whole episode on this for the podcast where I talk about other theme park disasters that have happened throughout history. This picture is actually from a theme park ride test where the flume completely flew off of the ride, and that ride would go on to open and claim the life of a 10-year-old boy. And that's because the creator of the ride wasn't an engineer, he was just a hobbyist. But in America, if you can dream up a ride, you can make it. For instance, in Florida, parks with over 1,000 workers don't even have officials from the state inspect the rides for safety. Now, giving them the benefit of the doubt, no one died on this ride, and I'm sure it was made by engineers and not just some guy. If you want to hear about more theme park disasters that occurred throughout history because of our lack of safety regulations in America, you should check out episode 70 of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast.
Let's talk about this.
See, that's how I'm figuring. I'm a person who be like stays away from roller coasters. I rode a couple, man, but I'm not a big like roller coaster type of person. I didn't even know the freaking security, man, was so lax on the regulations on those rides. See, I had a feeling, man. It saved me.
This picture. Captured in 2008 by Daniel Young, this is one of the only pieces of evidence that this encounter actually happened. So Daniel was a custodian at Myrtle Elementary School where he worked the night shift. It's a pretty routine night. He's just listening to music when he's suddenly interrupted by the sound of a woman's laughter. He turned around and was terrified when he saw an unknown woman smiling from behind the corner. This was a locked school on after hours, so clearly she was an adult who broke in, so he tried to snap a picture to identify her and then chases after her. But when he turned the corner, she had already darted out of an emergency exit. Later that night, police are called to a home where they arrive at a tragedy. An unknown woman had broken into a nearby home where she knifed two parents, one who was the principal of this school, so brutally they were unrecognizable. One of the daughters who witnessed this woman before she got away described her as this person. Could this photo be of the same unknown woman? And what her connection is to the school and the principal, we don't know.
Kids who have unalived someone, part 4. 15-year-old Alyssa Bustamante convinced her younger sister to go to the neighbors 4 houses down and convince their 9-year-old daughter, Elizabeth Olton, to come out and play. Elizabeth's mother was hesitant at first because dinner was almost ready, but she agreed. Alyssa's sister had no idea what her older sister was up to. Once she was in the clear and away from her home, Alyssa proceeded to strangle Elizabeth, as well as slit her throat and stab her in the chest, and then bury her in the hole she had dug days before. After committing this crime, Alyssa wrote in her diary, "It was amazing. Once you get over the oh my god feeling, it's actually pretty enjoyable." She was sentenced to life in prison.
That's an insane story right there. You wouldn't believe until you heard it.
Creepiest things kids have ever said. A woman drove past a cemetery with her 3-year-old daughter in the back seat every day. The 3-year-old kept telling her mom that people in the cemetery were waving at her. This went on for a while until the woman stopped driving past the cemetery forever when the daughter said that a lady wanted her to come in. A family moved into a new furnished apartment with an unsettling painting in the bedroom that kind of looked like hair free-flowing in the air. The 2-year-old son was being settled in for his daily nap until suddenly he said he didn't want to sleep in that room. When mom asked why, he said, "This painting looks at me and tries to talk to me, and I don't like it." A 4-year-old girl spent every day with her great-grandmother, and every day she'd go home, she'd say, "God be with you." One time when she was leaving, she said, "Go with God." Her mother tried to correct her, but she said it again. That night, the great-grandmother passed away. Follow for more of the
Disturbing and scary facts you didn't know. Part 2. A man named Francesco Lentini had 3 legs, 4 feet, 16 toes, and 2 sets of functioning male genitals. He worked for a circus and lived until the age of 78. During the early 1990s, a serial killer named Joseph Matheny owned a burger stand located in Baltimore, Maryland. After his arrest in 1996, he confessed to feeding his customers the flesh of at least 3 humans he had murdered. Now, you can check if your phone activity is being monitored. Just click on Share, slide all the way to the end, click More, and if any apps appear before your contacts, you should delete it immediately. Albert Fish, an American serial killer, boasted that he killed in every state and claimed to have had over 100 victims. What makes him even more sickening is that he sent letters to his victims' parents to tell them how good their children tasted. A new homeowner was shocked to find a rag doll boarded up in a wall cavity clutching a note saying she killed a family.
Urban legends that were proven to be real, Part 1. The Candy Lady. In the early 1900s, children in an unnamed rural town in Texas started to go missing, and the residents blamed it on the Candy Lady. The story says that she would go around leaving candy on children's windows, and eventually she'd lure the kids out with notes attached promising more candy. The story picked up steam when a farmer allegedly found rotten teeth in his farm, later found the body of a boy with his pockets stuffed with candy. Call for next urban legend.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There are thousands of old diseases frozen in the glaciers of the world, and global warming will eventually release them all. If a person dies in their costume at Disney, like Mickey Mouse, they have to be sat down on a bench so it looks like they're resting. Climate change is making spiders bigger. Some female spiders allow their young to eat them alive. Tooth in the eye surgery is when surgeons put a tooth in a blind person's eye to restore their sight. It was pioneered in the 1960s, and it actually works, and it's still being done today. The chances of a successful CPR outside of a hospital is only 7%. Cell phones are 10 times dirtier than a toilet seat. When you suddenly wake up during the night without any reason, there was someone or something staring at you. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 12.
We are dead. This conspiracy theory is going to mess you up. If you don't want me to ruin your day, just keep on scrolling. Go on, keep on scrolling. Trust me, you don't want to see this. Right, so for everyone that's still here, let's get into it. Right, so it's scientifically proven that when we die, our mind is still functioning. And it's true that our life literally does flash before our eyes. There's a 7-minute period of time where you will re-watch your entire life. But it won't feel like 7 minutes, it will feel like forever. It's also proven that there is no possible way that we could know we're in that state. What I mean is there is no way you would know you're dead and rewatching your life. You just think it's your life. What I'm trying to say is we could all be dead, laying in a hospital bed somewhere. And this reality is just our life flashing before our eyes in a weird way. What the hell?
Did you know it? I didn't even think about it like that. Say your life flashed before your eyes, man, but it feels like a lifetime. So are we in that state right now? Got me asking some good questions.
A teenager once hacked a military satellite using a school computer. In 2002, 17-year-old Jamie Brooks from Nebraska stayed after class, telling his teacher he was working on a science project. What no one knew was that Jamie had built his own software, using outdated manuals he found in a junk shop and code he copied from a cracked video game. One night, he managed to access a decommissioned US military satellite and briefly redirected its camera. For exactly 42 seconds, it live-streamed a secret government facility in Nevada. A few people online caught the footage. One frame showed something odd. Not a person, not a vehicle, but a figure with glowing eyes. Within hours, Jamie's computer was fried. 2 men in suits showed up at the school. Jamie never returned. His family claimed he was sent to a special program, but no one ever heard from him again. To this day, the footage is gone. But some users claim fragments still exist, buried deep in forums, behind encrypted logins. So, what exactly did Jamie see?
Scary movies that we all saw as kids that terrified us. This is the movie Monster House. The movie is about 3 friends named DJ, Chowder, and Jenny, who discover that DJ's neighbor's house is actually a living, breathing, scary monster who eats innocent children and people. The house is owned by a scary and evil old man named Never Cracker. DJ, Chowder, and Jenny make it their mission to destroy the house so no more innocent people get eaten. But it turns out that the house is haunted and possessed by Nebuchadnezzar's wife, Constance, who died in the basement by getting covered in cement. This movie is extremely creepy and scary, and it's definitely one of my favorite animated scary movies ever. If you want to watch this movie now, it's actually on Netflix. But I must say, after watching this movie, you might have a hard time sleeping.
I think I remember seeing it as a kid.
Yo, what's up? Here's some facts that will probably ruin your childhood. Part 2. You guys remember Sleeping Beauty, right? Well, what if I told you that the original story went like this? It was a princess who was sexually assaulted while she was sleeping. The guy left, and the only reason she woke up is because she found out she was pregnant with twins, and the guy came back, and they fell in love without her even realizing that she was sexually assaulted in her sleep. You guys remember Pee Wee Herman, right? A pretty goofy character. Well, in 1991, the actor that played Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, was arrested for indecent exposure at an adult movie theater in public, meaning he probably pulled out his private parts and, well, yeah. You guys remember the Power Rangers, right? Well, how about in particular the Red Power Ranger, played by Ricardo Medina, who actually stabbed his roommate in real life with a sword and killed him. And finally, Peter Pan was written about the author's brother, who was 13 at the time when he died after falling and cracking his skull while ice skating.
Creepiest things kids have ever said. A man's mother passed away in a car accident when he was 6 years old. When his 2-year-old daughter saw a picture of her grandmother for the first time, she laughed. He asked her, "What's so funny?" She looked at him and said, "That's my special friend who sings to me." A man's 3-year-old daughter stood next to her newborn brother and looked at him for a while. She turned back to her dad and said, "Daddy, it's a monster. We should bury it." A woman and her 4-year-old son were out in public when all of a sudden he starts rubbing on her belly and talking to it. She asked what he was doing, and he said, "I'm talking to the baby." She informed him politely that she was not pregnant, and then he said, "There is a baby in your belly. I just saw it crawl across the floor and climb up into you." A woman's 5-year-old asked when he was going to be 23 years old. She told him in 18 years. He replied, "Well, I hope I don't die again because that's how old I was the last time I went to heaven." Follow for more of the...
I'm gonna make your childhood even better. Part 2. So we all remember Fred and Daphne from the Scooby-Doo movies, right? From these Scooby-Doo movies? Well, Fred and Daphne actually got married in real life and even have 2 kids together. Pretty cool.
Wow, I never knew that. That was a classic
I'm gonna
movie,
ruin your childhood, part 80. So everyone remembers Max from the Wizards of Waverly Place, right? Well, after Disney, he had some struggles. In 2014, he had a huge meltdown backstage at the Teen Choice Awards. A bunch of witnesses claimed that he yelled at a worker because the worker didn't know who he was. And it got so bad that he threw things at a staffer and stormed off, but it gets way worse. A couple years later, he was involved in a 4-car hit and run. His car smashed into 3 parked cars. But the craziest part is, after hitting the 3 parked cars, he just called an Uber and left the scene like that. And to make matters even worse, he got arrested for drunk driving just a little while after that as well.
Is that why he wasn't in it?
52-year-old Texas resident Karen Davis got married, and then after the ceremony and after the honeymoon, she went through the process of changing her last name from Davis to McBride to match her husband's last name. After the change was done, the last step was to get a new driver's license with the new name on it. So Karen emailed the local DMV to set up a time for her to come in and make the change to her license. But after she sent that email, the local DMV immediately emailed Karen back, and they told her that they could not help her with this request until she resolved an issue. They very cryptically said it had something to do with the state of Oklahoma. And then at the bottom of the email, there was just a phone number they told her she needed to call in order to resolve this issue. She punched this number the DMV had given her into her phone, and then she let it ring. A few moments later, a woman from the Norman, Oklahoma District Attorney's Office picked up the phone and said, "How can I help you?" Karen told her, "Hey, I was just trying to get a new license in Texas. They told me there was some sort of issue. I don't know what it is, but this is the number they gave me. The woman from the DA's office discovered Karen's so-called Oklahoma problem. And after she explained to Karen what this enormous problem was, Karen literally couldn't believe it. Suddenly, everything in Karen's life made sense. For the last 22 years, Karen, who was incredibly smart and friendly and polite and never had a problem with anyone, had an incredibly hard time getting a job. Even jobs that she was extremely qualified for, she would get turned down for someone who was way less qualified. And then, in the rare times that Karen did actually get hired, she would always get fired for no reason. And so Karen never understood why she was being treated this way until now. It would turn out 22 years earlier, which is when Karen's hireability issues began, she lived in Norman, Oklahoma. She lived with a roommate, and this roommate was this nice young man who had a couple of young kids, and one weekend he went to the local movie store called Movie Place, and he rented the hit 90s movie Sabrina the Teenage Witch to watch with his kids. And after he was done watching this movie, he didn't return the VHS tape of Sabrina the Teenage Witch back to Movie Place. When Sabrina the Teenage Witch was not returned in a timely fashion, they pressed charges against the cardholder. And the cardholder was Karen Davis. The roommate had just borrowed her card. And somehow, these charges against Karen were never brought up to Karen. She was never contacted by anyone, and so for 22 years, she was technically a wanted felon for felony embezzlement. And so this was the reason she kept not getting jobs and kept getting fired from jobs.
Brain facts you didn't know about. The brain will protect itself even if it means misery to you or death. Inhaling smoke in the middle of a burning house. Brain will make you stop breathing and pass out. Stuck in the middle of a cold place. You will fall asleep to conserve energy and never wake up again. Had your leg torn off by a bear. Here's adrenaline. So you can save your brain even if there's a huge risk of infection or further injury. You and your brain work together most of the time, but when push comes to shove, you are sacrificed.
Survival of the fittest, even for your brain, bro.
Normal looking photos with a disturbing backstory. This photo might just look like a girl scribbling on a blackboard, but it was actually taken in a school for emotionally disturbed children in Poland. This girl's name is Tereska and she grew up in a concentration camp. But what's even more disturbing about this photo is that the assignment was to draw what home looks like. And while all the other students drew pictures of houses, this is what Tereska drew. Now this might look like any other high school photo until you look closer. You'll see these boys in the very back suggestively pointing at the camera. Their names are Eric and Dylan, and just a few weeks after this photo was taken, they unalived 12 students and 1 teacher in the Columbine shooting.
Psychology hacks you need to know. If you ask someone to do a small favor, their subconscious mind will register that they like you because they're doing a favor for you. Showing the palms of your hands while talking to someone subconsciously communicates that you have nothing to hide and you can be trusted. Whenever you are introducing a new idea to someone, if you lead with the words, "This might not be for you, but," it naturally engages the person's interest and makes it feel like it probably is for them.
Really?
If you need to remember to do something tomorrow, just put something in your room out of place. The next day you'll see this item out of place and it will remind you of what you associated it with. If you are procrastinating right now, stop telling yourself that you have loads of work to do. Instead, just tell yourself you only have to work for 5 minutes. You'll most likely continue to work even after 5 minutes. People who are lying normally blink more than usual, hide the palms of their hands, mess with their hair or appearance, and use either abnormally long or short sentences. Follow for more.
Really? Those tales, man, you gotta pay attention to them.
Worst ways people have been unalived. Part 5. The woman who was embalmed alive. This is 28-year-old Ekaterina Fudieva from Russia. She had recently been diagnosed with ovarian cysts and wanted to have them removed, so on March 15th of 2018, she went in for surgery. The very routine operation went just as planned. This is when the fatal mistake comes in. Instead of her being administered a saline drop, she was given formaldehyde. If you don't know, formaldehyde is something morticians typically use to preserve and keep a body as fresh as they can. The staff tried flushing her body with water, but to no avail. The chemicals started to attack her body. For over 12 hours, her organs started to fail and shut down. She remained unconscious for 3 weeks, all while being hooked up to machines to try and keep her organs from failing, but she soon passed.
And bombed alive? It's one of the most craziest things we've heard yet. That might be an edit, man. If you guys see any edits, like I said, call them out.
These are human body parts that may disappear in the future. First up is body hair. Originally, it protected ancient humans from harsh weather conditions. However, over time, with modern clothes and changes in environmental conditions, human body hair has significantly decreased and continues to do so. Many scientists believe it might eventually completely disappear. Next are wisdom teeth. They used to serve an evolutionary purpose for ancient humans who had much rougher diets and needed more chewing power. But our diets have softened and our jaws have become increasingly smaller. As a result, they have no space to properly grow in, and many people need to have them surgically removed.
Yeah.
Many babies are now being born without wisdom teeth, and scientists believe this will eventually be the standard. Finally, we have male nipples. Everyone starts as female in the womb, and before the Y chromosome kicks in for males, nipples have already formed. When the baby becomes male, the prolactin levels decrease, making the male nipples non-functional. So while it's debated, some scientists think they'll disappear.
Creepy facts you probably don't know.
Nipples gonna disappear? What the heck?
At one time, doctors thought that babies didn't feel pain. It took up until 1987 for the American Academy of Pediatrics to declare that it was unethical to operate on babies without anesthesia. So that means for years, babies were forced to just sit there and suffer through surgery without any form of pain control or anesthetics. So yeah, that's kind of scary.
Here's some random
Yes,
facts
it
that
is.
will mess with the way you see the world. Astronaut means star sailor. Astro meaning star and not meaning sailor. That is such a cool name. High heels were originally made for butchers so they wouldn't get blood on the bottom of their shoes. The first ever webcam was created to check on a coffee pot just to make sure it didn't catch on fire. In Switzerland, it's illegal to own just one guinea pig. You need at least 2 or more. I think it's because they get depressed if they're alone. I'm not even joking. Australia is wider than the moon. How does that work? The Eiffel Tower is taller in the summer. This is because metal expands when it gets hot, right? A jiffy is an actual unit of time. It's 1/1000th of a second. In Japan, there's over 200 flavors of Kit Kats. I didn't know that there were 200 flavors, period. Queen Elizabeth was a trained mechanic in the military. That's a baller move, though. Become a mechanic and then a queen. Do you know the only letter that doesn't appear in a U.S. state name? I'll give you 3 seconds. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Q.
The letter Q. Weird ass facts that I know for some reason. If you're allergic to eating shrimp, then you also can't eat cicadas. Male hedgehogs pleasure themselves the same way that us guys do. So be careful when you pick one up, because that white stuff on their feet is not mayonnaise. Saddam Hussein actually wrote a romantic novel. Platypuses don't have nipples, so they literally just sweat milk. Ducks will have sex with literally anything. Literally anything. Literally anything. On average, cannibals find ponds to be the tastiest. Crocodiles gallop, just like a horse does. The thought of this is really scary, though, not gonna lie.
There is something sinister that's occurred in the heart of
Galloping?
An 8-year-old girl has completely vanished in or near the lake, which, of course, has left her family and loved ones completely devastated. This place is nestled within a remote and desolate swamp. Caddo Lake is shrouded in mystery. It's dark trees, murky waters, and there are countless hidden spots that would make it perfect for someone to disappear. As the search for Anna continues, there has been a startling discovery. There are secrets buried deep within this eerie lake, far more than I think anybody could have imagined. Now, this chilling premise is the basis for the latest suspense and mystery film, produced by M. Night Shyamalan, premiering on Max Thursday, October 10th. Don't miss the stars Dylan O'Brien and Eliza Scanlon as they unravel the terrifying secrets hidden beneath the surface, only on Max.
Okay, well, wait. Should we check it out, man? See, because like I said, you guys know I'm not into scary movies, but thrillers and things, I'll check those out.
Truths about fears. You are not afraid of the dark.
I ain't?
You are afraid of what may be there.
That actually makes sense. If you really think about it, because I'm starting to put two and two together. Like I said, obviously I'm not afraid of being in a dark room or something like that, or like I said, being outside when it's really dark. But you just don't, when it's dark, you don't know, you can't see, so you don't know what's actually there. So that actually makes sense. You're scared of the things that could be in the dark, and actually scared of the darkness itself. Well, some people actually could be scared of both, but I think I fall into that category, bro. Expanding my thoughts, Seekers.
The darkest conspiracies in the world.
The Mandela Effect, a theory that suggests that our current reality has somehow been shifted into an alternate universe. Such evidence includes things like the Berenstain Bears being Berenstain Bears, fruit of the loom, with and without the cornucopia. Even the memory of Mandela dying in prison back in the 1980s versus 2013, supposedly created by the CIA as a psyops. Are we really in an alternate reality? Hit the plus sign if you think so.
Hit that thumbs up button if you think we're in an
There are some
alternate
of the most
reality.
random animals people have been killed by. In July 2013, a Brazilian man was asleep in bed when a cow fell through his roof right on top of him. The 3,000-pound animal had been grazing when it stepped on a thinly corrugated roof and fell and suplexed the man whose only crime was sleeping on the wrong side of the bed. The man seemed okay and went to the hospital, but then died of internal bleeding before even seeing a doctor. In the water, it isn't the sharks you have to worry about. It's the needlefish, because they'll yeet themselves out of the water at 37 miles per hour. Getting vibe checked by a fish fast enough to get a speeding ticket is one creative way to get put in a Twitter bio. One Indonesian woman tragically got pierced right above the eye, and even though she was rushed to the hospital, she flatlined a few hours later. One needlefish managed to stab a 10-year-old boy through the eye and into his brain, killing him almost instantly. Peacocks are low-key ops. A man in Thailand was minding his own business when out of nowhere his pet peacock mauled him, slashing at him with his claws. This velociraptor in drag managed to put this man in a coma. By the time he reached the hospital, they discovered there was a small blood clot in his brain. And he never woke up, so next time you see a peacock roaming a zoo unsupervised, just remember what they're capable of.
This horror game changes the appearance of the monsters based on your personality, and it's a Silent Hill game. In Silent Hill Shattered Memories, there is only one monster. It's called Raw Shock, and it can actually change its appearance based on what you do in the game. The game actually pays attention to what your character does and looks at while exploring in the overworld. Yes, you heard that right, what you look at in the game. One example is if you spend a lot of time looking at things like beer bottles, the monster will actually appear to look diseased. Levels are broken up by psychiatric evaluations that also change certain aspects of the game. These can lock you into certain playstyles that affect both the ending and the way the monsters look. It's one of the most underrated horror games I have ever played, and maybe one day we'll do a video talking about the ending.
Silent Hill, they just made the Silent Hill 2 remake just came out. Man, to the
movies that are
games,
even more
bro.
disturbing than Human Centipede. Just when you thought you've seen it all, I'm here to bring you the worst of the worst. We're gonna go from the least to the most disturbing.
Okay.
So in third place, we have The Sadness. This is a Taiwanese horror movie about a virus that makes people act out their darkest thoughts. So imagine the most twisted things you could ever think of, then imagine if you couldn't control yourself and needed to act on them. This movie gets very dark very quickly. In second place, we have Serbian Film. Yes, that means there's one more movie that I think is even more disturbing than Serbian Film, but just wait for it. Serbian Film is about a kind of actor who gets tricked into performing very intense things. Just to give you an idea of how disturbing this movie gets, it's in over 40 countries. And in first place, this is the most disturbing movie I've ever watched in my life. Trauma is a 2017 Chilean horror movie. The first 5 minutes of this movie is more disturbing than all 3 of the Human Centipede movies combined. And basically, it's about the son of and it shows how his father prepares him for that job. Then there's a time jump and we see a group of women on vacation and they run into him. If you like disturbing movies, then follow for more.
These are the
checking those
scariest
out.
planets ever found, part 3.
Up first is 51 Pegasi b. This planet is mainly made up of hydrogen and helium, and the temperature on this planet is over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This planet is so hot that the iron on this planet gets vaporized and then forms iron vapor clouds. These clouds will then produce molten iron rain, which just sounds completely brutal. Next up is Korat XL 3b. The degree of pressure put on a human being walking on this planet would be completely insane. A human on this planet would weigh almost 50 times heavier than they would on Earth. That means that a 180-pound man on this planet would weigh more than 9,000 pounds. The amount of stress would crush a human being's skeletal system instantly.
And yeah, they keep talking about how they want us to expand to different planets. That's proof right there, bro. We don't know what we getting ourselves into. We getting freaking iron rain. Your skull, freaking system's gonna get crushed instantly. I vote we stay here on Earth. What do you guys say?
The world's most dangerous conspiracy theories. This picture represents conspiracy theories from the most well-known to the darkest. Some of these theories say once you learn the truth, there's no return. For this series, we're going to be picking some from each category until we reach tier 10, the point of no return. Tier 10 is so scary that people are saying I'm literally going to die before I even reach Tier 10. So make sure to follow to see the journey. Okay, so Tier 3. This is the point of no return. Today we're going to be talking about the Denver Airport. The Denver International Airport is located in Denver, Colorado. Before we get to the conspiracies, let's go over the facts. During the process of building this airport, they apparently went over budget by $2 billion. And supposedly even more than that. They were also 16 months behind schedule. So now we're going to talk about some of the theories on why they went over a budget of $2 billion and why it took so long to build this airport. One of the most popular theories is that it's an underground facility for the global elite. There's a lot of facts to back this one up, but a construction worker claimed that the reason the delay was so long is because they were moving 5 buildings downstairs. And by downstairs, I mean in this underground tunnel. The second theory is the Mustang statue. This statue is a blue horse on its heels right in the center of the airport. Later, it was given the nickname Lucifer. The reason they call it Lucifer is because of the fourth horseman in the apocalypse in the book of Revelations. And the fourth horseman represents death. A lot of people have taken videos of this horse and you can literally see red eyes even though there's no LED lights inside of them. The crazy thing is the sculptor who built the statue actually was killed by it. The statue fell down, crushing him and splitting one of his arteries, killing him instantly. So maybe the reason for the delay was to hide something sinister. The final theory that most people believe is this is a foundation for the Freemasons. The Freemasons have some of the most powerful people in the world, which leads people to speculate that this is a headquarters for the Illuminati. There is even a statue that says March 19th, 1994, and those numbers equal the number 33, which is the highest level of Freemasonry. And under the date, the commission name is New World, hinting to the New World Order. The New World Order is thought to be a small group of people controlling the entire world under one government, creating total power and total wealth. So, do you think this airport accidentally spent over $2 billion, or were they hiding a much darker secret? Make sure to like and follow because we have a lot more to learn. Also, my YouTube channel is Austin Fro. Tomorrow I'm going to be posting a full version of Tier 4, so that way you guys can watch the entire thing.
Time travel tips, part 3.
Discuss it down below.
Southampton in 1912, and make sure you bring a cloth and a bottle of chloroform. Take 1 month of Morse code classes. Purchase a ticket to cross the Atlantic on the RMS Titanic. At 8:30 p.m. on April 14th, walk into the radio room and sneak up behind the operator. Quickly cover his face with the chloroform cloth, knocking him out. Carefully hide his body, and then send out a distress signal. At 11:40, you'll hear a horrible screeching noise. As the ship begins to fill with water at midnight, the RMS Carpathia will arrive, saving everyone on board before Titanic goes under.
Okay. Follow those damn steps. That's an edit. Call them out, man. Like I said, if you guys see any edits, call them out because I might miss some too.
Dark web videos you were never supposed to see, part 1. The first video we're watching is going to be the Glasgow video. The full video was actually only 2 minutes long, but YouTube removed it after only 153 people watched it. The 153 people who viewed this video apparently gouged their eyes out and sent it to the YouTube headquarters. The video itself was only viewed by one YouTube staff member who apparently passed out during the first 45 seconds of the video. The person who uploaded the video was never found and there was never an IP address to find him. The crazy part about this video is that 50% of people see that he smiles and the other 50% say he keeps a straight face. So you guys are going to decide.
Shaved fish are just smiling. I definitely saw something in the eyes.
Didn't happen, part 2. Airport security is non-existent. You simply show up and walk to the gate. The U.S. government has invested in a universal healthcare system instead of the Iraq War. Pete Davidson works with his dad as a firefighter in New York City.
These are some unsettling facts that you likely never knew about. Part 4. Most laughing tracks that you hear in movies and TV shows were recorded back in the 50s. So, you're essentially listening to dead people laughing. If the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs had hit 30 seconds later, dinosaurs would still be alive, which likely means that we wouldn't.
On
October 30th, 2022, police received a phone call from a woman claiming that her ex-boyfriend was in her family's home and he shouldn't be there due to the fact that she had filed a restraining order against him a week prior. While on the phone with police, dispatchers then heard shots ring out and 4 people were killed by Joseph Castorina. Thankfully, his ex-girlfriend and her 2 children survived, but unfortunately 3 of her family members, as well as 1 man who rented an RV on their property, passed away. Despite fleeing the country, he was found in December 2022, and as of recently, the now 22-year-old was charged with 4 life in prison sentences. What are your thoughts?
So about
It's an evil case.
3 little girls were murdered in a dance class by a teenager, and 10 others were injured. Of course, that teenager was arrested, but official sources never identified who this guy is exactly. There were several protests and riots in the UK across several cities in the country, and there was a mosque that was destroyed and burned down as a form of revenge because of what happened in Southport. About 1 day later, after this incident, the government, the media, and the police have officially identified who the killer is. He's a teenager named Axel Udakubana from Rwanda. That is a Christian, not a Muslim, a Christian. Are you gonna burn down a church now that you know he's a Christian? Is that the natural response we as people should have? Official sources confirmed who's the person behind this misinformation. And let me tell you, this is how dangerous misinformation can be.
It can be.
It can lead you to do the wrong things. The person behind this misinformation is Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is an anti-Islam activist. Most of the biggest platform he has is on X, Twitter. That was where he tweeted that this guy, the murderer, was a Muslim. And you know, because of his contribution to the misinformation, these riots happened. And innocent people were injured. And a mosque was burned down. I'm not sure if it was one or more than one. To be honest, I don't even know the guy. I just heard of him today. And from an official news site that said Tommy Robinson was the main contributor to the misinformation that led to these riots. People are so gullible in this day. Really. Like, I mean this with no offense, but you guys are. And it's really bad.
He's saying that he sees his wife, but she's actually dead.
She's a Djinn.
She's a Djinn, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a Djinn. So
The story happened in Pakistan.
yeah.
Yeah, some guy married the Djinn, yeah.
That's the
This story's messed up. Actually, you might have seen videos on TikTok about this because it was blowing up in Yemen and in some parts of the Arab world. You know, in Yemen there are Houthis. Well, in one of the Houthi bases, one of the Houthi soldiers went out, saw somebody he didn't know. Hey, who are you? He looks at him and runs away. He shoots him. Person dies. He goes, checks the body, person's dead. Goes back to tell report it to the general or whoever. And I killed the person, I don't know who he is. They go back, the body's not there.
What?
Where's the body? I don't know. No blood, no nothing. I said nothing happened.
Chills. Oh my god. Okay.
He killed the Djinn. He killed the Djinn. He killed the Djinn, bro. The next day, same night, a whole court system of Djinns possessed this man. There was a judge, Djinn world, judge, prosecutor, and the victim's father, the Djinn, the father of the Djinn that died, all talking using the guy's voice, and he was obviously having a lot of seizures in between, saying that, by the way, they were Muslim Djinns, so they don't immediately attack. There is a system, there is a law in place, they follow the same Quran, you know? They didn't kill that soldier, but they let him off the hook with a punishment. So either they had to take somebody from his family, life, or they kill him, because that's what the father said. He said, let me kill this man, he killed my son, let me kill him. But the judge refused, and there was something he had to pay as a diya.
What?
And I don't know what it was and how it worked out, but the guy suffered a lot, man.
He killed the Djinn. So he killed the Djinn. The Djinn was the human being?
Yeah, he is shapeshifted. Djinns can shapeshift. They're not perfect human being form, but they can shapeshift enough for you to look at them and think they're humans.
So he killed the Djinn.
Killed the Djinn. And you know, sometimes they say, when you see a lizard, sometimes they say part of the sun is to kill it, right? Because it could be a Djinn. And if you take the lizard's life and it was a Djinn, the actual Djinn dies. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes they're like,
good that they thought it. It's not gonna come after my family.
It can't. That's why there was another story in Qatar of a guy that shot a black cat, which turns out to be a Djinn.
Oh yeah, I heard that. I heard that a lot before. They say if you see a black cat, be cautious. You know, it might be Djinn.
It might be. Yeah. Then they went and they say, hey, you tried to kill one of our people. Be careful. You do that one more time, we'll bury your head in another continent and your body in Antarctica. Like we will separate you in half, like literally.
Damn.
Well, they can't do that. They really can't. You know.
Creepy facts I bet you didn't know, part 1. Your lips and anus are connected by the same tube. 90% of serial killers choose their victims by sexual desire. Your organs move freely around your body. Crows used to follow armies to feed on dead bodies. Human sacrifice was a real thing in Aztec Mexico.
Whoa. Bombarded with information, man.
Scariest mythical creatures from around the world, part 2. The Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is a legendary creature found in Pine Branch, South Jersey. It is known to look exactly like a giant flying goat, having an extremely long neck, massive wings, extremely short legs, and of course a tail as sharp as a sword. Don't forget to like and follow for a part 3.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your childhood, part 2. This little girl here is Judith Barsi. She played Ducky in Land Before Time. She also played Anne Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven. In 1988, she was shot in the head by her own father. He also did the same thing to her mother. After that, he doused the bodies in gasoline, then proceeded to set them on fire. He then shot himself in the head, and that's how the story ends. Her gravestone says yup yup yup, which is a quote from her character in the Land Before Time movies.
The creepiest places in the world.
Shame.
Gate to Hell, Turkmenistan. It's been burning for past 40 years, and no one knows when it's going to stop.
Lake Natron, Tanzania.
Due to high levels of salt contents, everything that touches the lake turns to pure stone.
Mythical creature caught on camera. Unicorn.
What is these could be edits, high quality edits.
Fairy.
I'm gonna have to call cap on this one.
Dragon.
Yeah, that's definitely a cap, bro. It's high quality. I give him that though. Imagine how the world would react if that was a real dragon.
Mermaid. Phoenix.
Is that bird on fire? Yeah. Okay. What do you think about those video seekers? I think the only one that probably got to me was the mermaid one, because I think they're truly are probably mermaids, man. We just haven't seen them yet. Maybe sirens or whatever they're called, man.
Scary facts you didn't know were real, part 4. Most people agree that dying in your sleep is probably the best way to go. Peaceful, no signs of pain, no torture. Some say that an angel will pick you up and carry you to heaven while you're asleep. But sometimes angels can be clumsy and they can drop you. Remember the times you've been falling in your sleep and then you just randomly wake up? Makes sense to the whole hell on earth thing. Did you know that after sitting in a dimly lit room for 10 minutes, your brain will get so bored that it will literally start scaring you? Monsters in your reflection, your brain just completely playing tricks on you.
This causes you to see imagery like Bloody Mary. That's why people do the Bloody Mary challenge in a completely pitch black room. And it doesn't happen right away because it's your brain literally playing tricks on you. Once upon a time, legends say that a little girl drowned in a canal, completely surrounded by an uninhabited island in Mexico. Today, some are even hung by trees. Now the area is nicknamed the Island of Dolls. That's fucking scary. A little girl drowned there, people have killed themselves there. Now it's called the Island of Dolls. I'll definitely pass on that one. Like and follow for more facts.
The most insane rulers in history, part 2. Ivan IV, aka Ivan the Terrible, was Tsar of Russia between 1547 and 1548. Abuse as a child gave way to mental illness as an adult, and Ivan began torturing small animals. In 1544, at only 14, he seized control of Russia by feeding the head of the government to a pack of dogs. He then began massacring his own people and even killed his oldest son himself. He would apologize publicly for his cruel actions and then immediately turn around and do something even worse. Prince Sado lived in Korea between 1735 and 1762. After being sick with measles at 17, he began acting violently, abusing his servants and attacking women. He began murdering on a whim and even began stalking his own sister, which was the point that the king had enough. To prevent the prince from spreading any more terror, the king had him locked in a rice chest where he spent 8 days until he eventually died.
This is a creepy story about the children on the bus. One night a man was on a bus on his way home from work. He thought he was the only person on the bus until he heard children's voices coming from behind him. He was listening to their conversation and was very interested. The two young boys were talking about a ghost story. They were saying, and if you turn around, the ghost will snatch you away and carry you to the underworld. The man recognized the boy's voice. He often seen the kids on the same bus on his way home from work every day. They attended a school nearby. Then the other boy was saying, "That's easy then. All you have to do is make sure you don't turn around." "Yeah," said the first boy. "But the thing is, you can't help but turn around. The ghost would try all sorts of tricks to make you turn around." The man then realized they were getting close to their stop. However, it looked like they didn't notice. When the bus stopped, the kids were still talking. The man thought he should warn them that they're gonna miss their stop, so he turned around to tell them. The man was never seen again.
Turned around. They told him don't turn around. The story if he was listening to it. A creepy bus story, bro. Sounds legit to me.
I'm Gonna Ruin Your Childhood, Part 1. The original Wizard of Oz movie is actually considered to be cursed because of all the horrific things that happened during filming. The main character, Dorothy, who was played by Judy Garland, was actually drugged and molested during filming. She was given adrenaline shots so that she could stay up more than 48 hours at a time. And there are reports that she was sexually assaulted by the Munchkin actors and studio executives. The actress who played the Wicked Witch got horrifically burned on set. During the scene where the witch escapes Munchkin Land in a plume of smoke, the pyrotechnic team set off the explosion a little too early. It caused the witch's broom, hat, and makeup to catch on fire. The medics had to rub alcohol all over the burns to remove the makeup, which was extremely painful. And the snow that you see in the movie was actually a lethal chemical called asbesto, which causes cancer.
This is the worst thing that ever happened at a concert. In 2003, the band Great White was performing live when pyrotechnics went off as planned. But within moments, everything took a horrifying turn. Flames erupted as the foam on the stage and walls caught fire, spreading faster than anyone could react. While the band managed to escape through the back exits, hundreds of audience members were left in chaos, desperately trying to find their way out. Thick smoke quickly filled the venue and people scrambled toward the front entrance, creating a wall of bodies as they clambered over each other in a desperate bid to survive. In the video of the incident, you can see people screaming and getting crushed to death. The situation spiraled as people became trapped, some crushed under the weight of others. And survivors described the scenes of half-burned victims being pulled out from the flames. Outside in the snow, survivors tried to help by rubbing snow onto the burned. But the devastation was immense. By the end, 100 people had tragically lost their lives, and over 200 were injured in one of the most heartbreaking concert disasters in history.
This skull was found inside the wall of a house in Illinois, and it turns out that it belonged to a woman that passed away more than 150 years ago. In 1978, James Scare was doing renovations on his home when he came across a skull behind the wall. He called police and they took the skull to further investigate. They knew it belonged to a woman, but could not identify who this person was until recently. In February 2024, with the help of genetic genealogy, they finally determined that the skull belonged to a 17-year-old woman named Esther Granger. Esther was born on October 6, 1848 in Indiana, and at 16 she got married, then pregnant, but passed away from complications after giving birth to her daughter in 1866. She was buried in a grave in Illinois, and her daughter was named after her. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world did Esther's skull randomly appear inside this man's wall in a completely different state? Well, even though investigators are not 100% certain, their theory is that Esther was a victim of grave robbing. Grave robbing is when someone digs up a grave and takes the body of a deceased person to often sell them to medical schools for research purposes. This was pretty common in that era since it was very profitable and there was a high demand for research and education. After searching for a family related to Esther, they found a man named Wayne, who's also a retired police officer in Portland, and he happens to be Esther's great-great-grandson.
This is the creepy story.
That's so disrespectful, man. People, they go on in their graves, man, just for some money. And then, like she said, it was in that era, bro. It was like, goes to show you, even back in the day, man, people were doing wild things in the world. Grave robbing.
Story about the stare. A girl was on the subway late at night when she noticed a woman staring at her intensely. The woman was sitting between two old men. The girl kept looking away, but the woman staring never broke eye contact. It started to freak the girl out. At the next stop, a tall man in a trench coat boarded. He sat down right next to the girl. The woman who was staring paid no attention to the man who just boarded and just kept staring at the girl. Now this really creeped out the girl. The two men that the woman was sitting between never once looked in her direction. The girl then pretended not to notice, but each time she looked, the woman was still staring at her. At the next stop, the man in the trench coat got up to leave when suddenly he grabbed the girl's arm and dragged her out of the subway. The doors shut and the subway took off. The girl then started screaming for help, but then the man said, "Calm down. I just saved your life. I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that subway. The woman that was staring at you was dead, and the two men beside her were holding her up."
Oh, so he was a lifesaver then. Good people in the world, man, watching out for you, looking out for you. She didn't pick up on that.
A family was recording their reunion, having dinner, when they accidentally captured something disturbing outside. Useless Aguirre was with his family at Argentina's Matias Hotel, enjoying a poolside dinner, when he decided to film the moment. As the families enjoying their dinner, little did they know something horrifying would be captured.
See that?
As he pans the camera across the table, he sees this eerie pale person just standing there in the dark woods. Now, this could be just another guest staying at the hotel, but after zooming in, things get weirder. The figure doesn't seem to have any facial features, just a black mouth opening as the man zooms in on it. Not wanting to find out who or what this could be, the family finished their dinner and rushed back to their room. Saguero mentions he has no idea if what he saw that night was even human.
Yo, what's up?
What was
Here's
that?
some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 45. Egyptian mummies would still be considered one of the rarest artifacts to find up to date, if medieval Europeans hadn't consumed a majority of the dead mummies' bodies, because they believed back then that if you consumed embalmed dead bodies, that it would actually heal your ailments. Please do not try this next one, but it is actually possible that you can convince somebody who has no history of mental illness in their family that they have a severe mental illness in roughly only a week. Please do not try to convince your brother that he has schizophrenia. That would not be a good idea, and it would not end up well. Throughout the filming of The Exorcist, you hear the possessed girl let out multiple demonic screams, but little did you know that those screams weren't humanly possible, and they were actually the sounds of squealing pigs who were being taken to a slaughterhouse. And last but certainly not least, it is said that people who practice the religion of Zoroastrianism actually leave dead bodies up in towers so that vultures can consume their remains. To us, it may seem a little strange, but to them, it's actually a sign of respect. But when I die, please don't put my body in a tower so I can be eaten by vultures. It's just not my thing.
These parents
Indeed.
saved their 15-year-old daughter because they claimed that it was safer than her doing it with someone else. Just a warning that this story is very disturbing, but it does need to be talked about. In March of this year, a 15-year-old girl had called police that her stepfather had been essaying her for the last year and a half. She also told them that her mother was aware of this and let it happen. Police interviewed John and Shamika Hayes and they admitted to everything, and they claimed that they thought it was safer for them to do that to their daughter instead of her doing it with some random stranger. This all started when the girl was 14 years old. Her mother had found her Snapchat and saw that she was Snapchatting strangers, and she assumed that her daughter was trying to meet up with them. This part is disgusting, but her parents bought her toys to show her how to use them on herself and them. Police arrested and charged the parents, and they are currently being held at the Utah County Jail without bail. It was revealed that Shamika and John Hayes were a part of an LDS church, and it seemed like that church was trying to protect their image. The state of Utah recently passed a law that clergy are no longer required to report a crime of child essay if they know about it. So let's say someone goes to church to confess and they're talking to the clergy that they essayed their child. That clergy does not have to report it. The church can also cover this up and control the media when these reports are given to authorities. These children are not being protected, and if they were to go to a church leader to tell them what was happening to them, they would basically tell them to forget about it and just forgive that person. If a child were to report to police that they were getting essayed by a church member, that specific church has laws to protect that person so their name doesn't get out there. I know that this case was probably very hard to listen to, but it's very important that this 15-year-old girl and many others get the justice that they deserve.
That was an insane case, man. All those freaking loopholes to protect them. That's wrong. I think that's the edit.
I think this could be the strangest disappearance I have ever heard. This 19-year-old Jason Jolkowski, and in 2001 he was living at home in Omaha, Nebraska with his family, very normal life, and it was a summer day, June 13th, where something very disturbing took place right off his street. Jason wasn't supposed to work this day, but he got called into work, and it was a place called Fazoli's. It's kind of just like a fast casual Italian place, but the problem was he didn't have his car that day. He had no transportation. This manager who made a couple of calls, and he arranged for one of the co-workers to go and pick up Jason at the nearby high school. For context, it's a very short walk from his house. It's quite literally only a few blocks. Problem was, Jason never showed. He had somehow completely vanished during this walk. He only could have gone so many ways, so one of the most logical was that he was going to take Bedford. It's a street with a lot of foot traffic, so people assumed that somebody would have seen him. An alternate option where maybe he took a couple of back roads to get to the high school, but again, what's known is that he never made it, and no one has ever found what happened to him, and nobody saw or heard what went down. Looking for more of a deep dive on this story, I'm probably going to cover it on The Sinister.
Terrifying facts you
happened?
never knew. If your immune system ever found out that you have eyeballs, you would go blind. Which means right now, your immune system has no clue that you can see. Because if it did, they would attack your eyeballs until you can no longer ever see. This is because your eyeballs have a protein in them called crystalline that doesn't exist anywhere else in your body. So if your immune system found out and checked them out, it would be like, something's wrong here. Studies show that most serial killers are born in November. Today's high school students have the same anxiety levels as insane asylum patients had in the 1950s. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, my anxiety might be up there too. There's a disease called fatal familial insomnia, where people suddenly one day lose their ability to fall asleep, which leads them to slowly go insane. They can't distinguish dreams from reality anymore and go into some type of paranoia. It becomes so severe that they eventually die. Those that make it to the final stage and don't die usually end up in a vegetative state, no longer conscious. And it can happen to any one of you. About 3,000 people go missing every year in the United States. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977. This was in France. And also that was the same year the first Star Wars movie came out. You are always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. In 2011, Anatoly Yakovlevich was arrested for having 12 dolls in his apartment. Only problem is, they weren't normal dolls. They were recently deceased little girls that had been dug up and dressed to be put on display. In 2012, a Burger King employee anonymously posted this to 4chan. It said, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." It only took 20 minutes for people to track down the branch that he worked at, and he was fired. You really never know what people are doing to your food. H.H. Holmes was a serial killer who built a torture hotel in the 19th century. He had secret rooms with gas chambers, trap doors, and stairs that led to nowhere. He loved to play with his victims' minds. It was almost like a real-life Saw movie. There's a bridge in Scotland called the Overtoun Bridge, and for some reason, dogs keep jumping off of it at the same spot. Yeah, they just jump to their deaths. Experts can't figure out why either. Some people speculate it's a magnetic field, or maybe a frequency that only they can hear, but others believe it's something supernatural. But whatever is making dogs jump off that bridge to their deaths is still to this day unexplained. Joe Matheny was an infamous serial killer who not only cooked his victims to eat for himself, but also made them into burgers, using their remains. He then sold them to unsuspecting customers from a roadside food stand. We really never know what he is. I'm cooking all my food myself, because why don't we eat over people's house? In 2021, a new homeowner was shocked to find a boarded up wall. When he ripped the boards off the wall, he discovered a hole. In that hole was a doll clutching a note. The note saying that she killed a family who lived there in the 1960s. Be honest, would you move out? In 1978, there was a pilot named Frederick Valentin. Him and his plane disappeared in Australia. His last communication was, Melbourne, that strange aircraft is hovering above me again. It is hovering and it is not an aircraft. This is a mugshot of William West and William West. Oh, and they're not related at all, but they were both sent to Leavenworth Prison at the exact same time in 1903. And after some confusion, the staff finally figured out they were two different people who had the exact same name and looked identical. This was said to be one of the main reasons why we now use fingerprints to identify somebody. There's biotech being developed as we speak that can make prisoners feel they are serving an 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. That's horrifying. Imagine thinking you spent 1,000 years somewhere, and then when you wake up and snap out of it, you realize that it was only a couple hours. Do you know how crazy that is? Anyways, like this video if you want to part.
And got 0 prison time after stabbing her boyfriend 108 times. In 2018, 26-year-old Chad O'Melia's life was savagely taken in his apartment in California by his girlfriend. 33-year-old Brin Speer says that on this day, she was tricked by Chad into smoking a highly potent strain of marijuana, which caused her to go into psychosis. She says that she remembers immediately walking into the kitchen and grabbing several knives and stabbed her dog before going after Chad and taking his life. Brin then turned the knife on herself and attempted to take her own life before police arrived. And authorities also said that it wasn't easy restraining Brin and that the taser didn't even work on her. Now, Brin's defense argues that she reacted this way because she only smoked less than 6 times in her life, which that combined with the high potent marijuana explains why she took her boyfriend's life. Brin ended up only receiving just 2 years of probation, 100 hours of community service, and no prison time.
News that
What do you
will
think
give
about that?
you hope. A missing 5-year-old who walked out the back door was found in a nearby river and rescued by a Florida officer. A Burger King employee who went viral recently for working 27 years and only receiving a goodie bag from Burger King was able to buy a house thanks to the donations from going viral. A man was finally arrested in a 1973 cold case. Long Beach, California has fixed nearly half of its 63,000 potholes. A stray dog that was desperate to be picked up by a pup bus got adopted. We have discovered that microplastics can be removed from water when you boil it. A California cat traveled 800 miles back home after getting lost at Yellowstone National Park. Thailand has recently seen a 250% increase in the number of tigers in the country.
The creepiest
Stay out of
places
Thailand.
in the world.
Lake Natron, Tanzania.
Due to high levels of salt contents, everything that touches the lake turns to pure stone.
Hello, my friend. That is not accurate. Lake Natron is a mineral-rich lake in Tanzania. Despite its high pH levels, it has some animals that live in it, including the Alclipia fish. The misconception that it turns anything that touches it to stone comes from these photographs. Basically, animals pass away for whatever reason, fall into the water, and become like mummified. A photographer found such animals at Lake Natron, but placed them in a position so they'd look like they're alive for the sake of the photo, which led to some awesome results. Also, this lake is actually where flamingos go to mate. If you're there at the right time, you will see millions.
Playing some optical illusion with our eyes, man. It's all a trick. Goes to show how easy it is, but a picture can manipulate a whole story, man. You don't even know. You debunked that.
Celebrity plastic surgery disasters. Anthony Lofredo before. After.
He didn't look like an
Sander
alien.
Tabar before. After. Michael Jackson before. After.
We don't have it with Jackson.
Jocelyn Wildenstein before. After.
Yeah, she wanted to look like a
Melanie
cat.
Martinez before. After. Donatella Versace before. After. Igor and Grichka Bogdanov before. After.
How do people do that?
This mother was found brutally murdered while her quadruplet toddlers were found covered in her blood. Sheila Bellish was a mother of 6. She had her 2 older daughters from a previous marriage with a man named Alan Blackthorne. After her divorce, she then had her 4 beautiful toddlers right here with this man named Jamie Bellish. On the evening of November 7th, 1997, Sheila was found by her oldest daughter here. After she came home from school, she saw her mother on the floor with her throat slit, and her 4 younger siblings, the quadruplets, were literally crawling all over their mother's blood. Now, when you see this family, they look perfect and happy, but Sheila's past with her ex-husband is very messy. This is Sheila's ex-husband, Alan Blackthorne, and he made her life a living nightmare. So much so that she had to move her entire family from Texas all the way to Florida just to get away from him. Alan was very rich, and a lot of people described him as obnoxious and just a shitty person, but after his divorce with Sheila, he owed her over $1 million for their divorce settlement. He was not happy about that at all, so he hired this man, Jose Luis del Toro, to take Sheila's life. Jose broke into Sheila's house where no one was there except for her and her 4 toddlers, and he watched as she interacted with her babies, and he said that at one point he wanted to leave because he felt bad, but then he ended up just going through with it, and he took her life. This case is extremely devastating. These 4 toddlers were forced to grow up without their mother, and then the daughter who basically saw her mother in that state, which no child should ever have to, and then not only did they lose their mother, but they also lost their father through this process. Alan Blackthorne was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in federal prison without the possibility of parole. And the hitman, Jose Luis del Toro, he did avoid the death penalty. Instead, he was given life in prison without the possibility of parole.
South Carolina, it's
someone.
your turn to be shamed for having creepy things. This is a gigantic children's museum that is a boy that you can go inside its body and look at its body parts. And this is how big it is compared to humans. Yeah, his name is Eddie, and this is called Adventure, and it's in South Carolina. And look how tiny the people are compared to just its shoe. You can sit in the chair and take a picture with Eddie. I'd rather not. This is inside of Eddie's head, and you can see his eyeballs and his teeth. Also, if the children don't have faces, it's because I had to blur them out. So they might look like demons. You know what this reminds me of, though? When you're in the tubes at Chuck E. Cheese and you're trying to get your mom's attention. But yeah, look how absolutely massive that thing is compared to these kids. No. You can go on this catwalk and look at him, or you can literally just go inside him, like I said. Imagine it at night when all the lights of the museum go off and you can look through the window and see it in the pitch darkness. Look, this is Eddie's brain. You can go down these slides. There's a bunch of like interactive stuff for kids, like actually climbing up and going through his heart, stuff like that. It's nightmare fuel. Kids probably aren't scared though. Meanwhile, I would be. But yeah, have you seen Eddie? Will you go see Eddie? He is in South Carolina. Y'all are going to have to tell him that I said hello because I'm not going.
Before and after images that will shock you.
Desolate. they messing with that tomb, bro? Some Tomb Raiders? I thought you wasn't supposed to mess with that. That's look like a significant piece of history. They couldn't help themselves, could they?
Well, I heard someone said your body, my choice. I agree. The best one. It is a sickness. So here's how nature deals with that. Bonobos actually have a system where if one female gets pressed by a male and she's not feeling him, she'll let out a cry, and every female in the group will pull up and put the beats on dude until he learns respect. They actually managed to nerf male aggression through the power of friendship. So you know, when a new male lion takes over a pride, the first thing he does is cancel any cubs that didn't come from his. Well, sometimes the lionesses ain't having it. Sometimes they jump the new guy. There was one case in Masai Mara where a male tried to steal food from some cubs and got absolutely obliterated by the mothers. They castrated him. I can't even show you that picture. The biggest threat to a baby bear is a bigger male, and some mother bears will purposely live closer to people, knowing that's the only thing keeping her biggest ops away. Ironically, some bears choose the man. Funny. When a capybara wants to dub a guy, she'll dive into the nearest body of water and just sit there for as long as it takes. By the way, the guinea pig can stay under 5 minutes. Female dragonflies will fake their deaths to avoid male attention. Like they'll freeze in midair, crash to the ground, and just lay there and pray that stops them. Sometimes it doesn't. Some anacondas will seemingly let the male score, only to strangle him to a flatline and then eat him alive. The more you know.
Don't ever use a public bathroom again. This, my friends, is Akamata. Plus, drop a like, tag a friend, or she might get you. Akamata is a Japanese ghost that haunts and kills people in public bathrooms. They said that she'll walk up to you and ask you a series of questions. These are extremely important. The most important question being, would you rather choose red or blue? If you choose red, she'll chop you up into a million pieces. If you choose blue, she'll choke you to death until your face is blue. If you try to avoid the question entirely and choose a different color, she will drag you to hell to be never seen again. My question to you guys is it worth not waiting till you get home?
I don't use public bathrooms like that, but only when
I
it's
didn't think it was
necessary.
possible, but this line was even more of a menace than I imagined. Like, I knew he was a hater, but I rewatched the doc, bro. This was Kitty King Von. The more lore you get, the crazier. First, his name, Ntwa Dumela, actually isn't Swahili. I was sorry to blame the documentary, but I watched. They never said it was Swahili. I think I made it my bad. But yeah, Ntwa Dumela's name is Siswana, or Sisutu, and it roughly translates to, if you want the smoke, we'll bring the fire to your front door. First red flag, he ran a pride with his brother Mandevu, but while Mandevu was only after that, Ntwa Dumela didn't care, he craved conflict. Now here's where he earns his name. His pride was beefing with a clan of hyenas, and we're talking blood feud. You know how bad? Animals mark their scent, but usually predators don't care about the scent mark of other predators. It got so personal, the lead hyena would go out of her way to mark over the pride scent mark. And for reference, that's like painting over the set. And when you realize what hyenas mark with, you see the disrespect. Look up hyena butter. It's not the type you put on popcorn. Now add the fact they were harassing members of his pride, and you knew. Ntwa Dumela was not letting it slide. Here's what he did. One night the Yins and Lions were going at it, and Ntwa Dumela went straight for the matriarch and broke her back. Didn't even finish it, just cracked her like a glow stick and left like a sneaky link. Hyenas live in a complex hierarchy, so by crippling the leader, he basically tactically nuked their entire army. Now the diabolical part was the matriarch had a daughter who would have inherited the lead position, but because Ntwa Dumela went and bad-beat her mom, she lost all her status and got forced out the clan. So let's review. In one move, he assassinated the leader, left her to suffer, orphaned her daughter, ruined her future, destroyed her legacy, and caused the hyena civil war while ending theirs. Yeah, Ntwa Dumela got it. You've never heard a hyena stutter.
The 11-year-old sole survivor of a family.
And 6 steps, bro. My man completed the Black Air Force Energy, bro, trial. I don't know how he did that, bro. Man, don't mess with him, man. Him and his brother, they run that jungle, bro.
Family massacre in Fall City, Washington, played dead after her teenage brother allegedly opened fire at her. 5 members of the family, parents Mark and Sarah Humiston, and their children Catherine, 7, Joshua, 9, and Benjamin, 13, were killed in the shooting. The 11-year-old daughter watched in horror as her 15-year-old brother checked his victims' bodies for signs of life. After he shot her in the hand and the neck, she decided to play dead and escaped through a window after he left her room. The suspect was charged in juvenile court with 5 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of attempted murder.
This is why a notorious Colombian hit woman known as The Doll was just arrested by police yesterday for several high-profile hits, including her ex-boyfriend. And no, none of you in the comments can fix her. It's reported that 23-year-old Karen Rodriguez was labeled as highly dangerous by police and that she was in the midst of a career expansion, leading a small team of hitmen conducting a spree of you-know-what in the region prior to her arrest. And after her capture went viral online, people pointing out how much she looks like actor Aubrey Plaza are now calling for a movie to be made and for her to star as the Doll character.
Shocking facts you didn't know about power cuts. 40% of adults in the UK admit their first call would be to their mum and dad during a power cut. Who would you call? The UK's most memorable power cut happened in 1978 during national strikes. 1 in 5 British people surveyed said they would sit in the dark until the power comes back on and hope someone else solves the problem. The 2003 power cut left 500,000 people without electricity for hours. Almost half of the adults in the UK admitted they don't know about the 105 emergency helpline number. What if you or someone you love need support during a power cut? Get prepared and learn more at nationalgrid.co.uk/getswitchedon.
The weirdest world records of
Cutting power in the UK.
In 2011, a cheerleading team of 20 people set a world record. This record was fitting every single person into this tiny smart car. Now here's an interesting record that was broken by a woman in Japan. She popped 123 balloons with just her butt in 1 minute. I guess leg day really does pay off.
People you won't believe exist. Eli Thompson. He was born without a nose. Paul Carrison. His skin color is purple-blue.
Why? We heard about the blue people before.
Isaiah Acosta. He was born without jaw and ability to speak, but become a rapper.
I never heard any of his work.
B. Melvin. She has naturally white hair since birth.
Yeah, she looked like a, oh, she has that Targaryen hair.
Darina Spingler. She was born without chin and lips.
You learning, Seekers? So I watch these clips with you guys, man. Expanding my knowledge base every day.
Stillwater. We've already talked about Stillwater, but I had a dream last night that I fell in some Stillwater, so I'm going to make it everyone else's problem. Stillwater is, get this, when water is still. It mostly occurs in like abandoned places, obviously, because there's no, vacuum keeping the water moving. So it's very, very dangerous, as we've already talked about. There are like a bunch of like brain-eating amoebas probably in here, and don't fall in it. I found this picture on Reddit, and my soul left my body. Why does that look like a wig? Why does it look like the Grudge is in chocolate milk, and it's coming to kill me? This one looks like Shrek and Fiona had some fun in it, if you get my drift. This one is more liminal spaces, but the decals of, are those whales or dolphins, on the bottom of the pool would send me into cardiac arrest. Any pools that have anything on the bottom of them, like a decal or something, count me out, because I'm already scared there's a shark in there. Why are there so many abandoned pools that have not been cleaned out? Why? This abandoned YMCA with this water sitting in there for like 5 to 10 years? Why? Yeah, Stillwater is dangerous, y'all. Don't mess with it. This is horrifying. I don't know why it's so much less scary to think about falling in water that is, aerated, no movement is so much scarier. How do you feel about Stillwater?
Do not watch
Stay away from it.
Because it will unalive you. Why is this known as the most deadly film on Earth? The movie Antrim is about 2 siblings who accidentally dig a hole that leads to hell. It reportedly caused over 60 unalives, and when you start the film it even comes up with a legal warning that you have to read. Need people mysteriously passing away after watching this film. So, this actually released in 2018, but the actual original Antrim released in 1970. Rumoured to have been completely lost because you cannot find it anywhere, even though there is documentation of it being shown in theatres, which I'll get to. So, several film festivals who received the movie back in the 70s, people that got it vanished, passed away. But by far the craziest, a movie theatre completely catching alive while the film was being screened. In 1988, in Budapest, the film Antrim was showed. It burned down and unalived 56 people. This is an actual photo from the scene. This is 100% real. There is still no trace what caused this fire, and the reel that the film played off remained intact, completely unharmed. All of these events caused Antrim to become the most cursed film and dangerous film on the planet. Can watch this new version. As I say, it has a pretty severe warning at the start, but I do not recommend it. Let me know in the comments if you've seen it.
He broke a world record because police forgot about him. In 1979, 18-year-old Andreas Mijovich was taken into police custody following a car accident. Now, he was simply the passenger of the car and had absolutely no involvement with the wreck. But despite this, he was placed in a basement holding cell by Austrian police. Now, he should have been promptly released, but they kind of forgot about him. The 3 officers who were all involved with the case all thought that another one had already released him. It wasn't until the room he was in began to smell that they found him 18 days later. During his incarceration, he had lost over 50 pounds and survived by drinking condensed water on the prison walls. His mother repeatedly visited the police station asking the whereabouts of her son, and she was ignored. During the trial, all 3 officers kind of just put the blame on one another. But they did all receive a pretty hefty fine, and Andreas was awarded the 250,000 shillings that he demanded. To this day, even though he didn't try, he still holds the Guinness World Record for the longest surviving time without food or water.
I got 250,000. Nah, I would have had to get a meal off that. Bump that, man. Kept me in there 18 days without food or water, and he survived. They all should have got
You know
fired.
this holiday movie, but do you know these movie facts? Holiday Horror Advent Calendar Day 6, and today is Black Christmas, 2006 version. I hope this doesn't get me canceled, but I love the original Black Christmas, but I prefer this one. Black Christmas is about this escaped maniac who goes back to his childhood home, which is now a sorority house, and wreaks havoc on the sorority sisters. Movie trivia number 1. In the background of one of the scenes, we see something very familiar. You can spot the leg lamp from the movie A Christmas Story, which was directed by Bob Clark, who also directed the original Black Christmas. Movie trivia number 2. The movie was filmed in Canada and only took 29 days to complete filming. Movie trivia number 3. Writer and director Glenn Morgan really wanted to expand on Billy's character because he felt like that's what was missing in the original Black Christmas, so when he was coming up with different character traits, he studied one very specific person. He based a lot of character traits and backstory on real-life serial unaliver Edmund Kemper.
What is the biggest difference between Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and the new age slasher Art the Clown? It's this one thing. Will Gen slashers always hold true to this? Because they're not threats. But will Art the Clown see it that way? I don't know, because from what I've been told, the first couple minutes of Terrifier 3 are said to be some of the most disgusting, disturbing, and shocking things we've ever seen. And that's saying a lot, because Terrifier 2 is absolutely insane, especially the bedroom scene. People were literally running out of the theaters and throwing up when they first saw Terrifier 2. And if the first couple minutes of Terrifier 3 are said to be some of the most shocking and disturbing things we've seen from Art, what does that mean for this little person? But what's going to happen? Because from the countless set photos we've seen, Art the Clown is dressed up as Santa Claus and going to the mall. Meaning he's going to have a ton of people around him sitting on his lap and telling him what he wants for Christmas. Now, we already know what Art the Clown wants for Christmas. He wants to decorate with people. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions and tagged in this video. Do I think Art the Clown is genuinely going to pack this kid up? I don't know. I don't think Damien Leone is going to go that far, but if it's been said that this movie is going to be 10 times shocking, especially the first 5 minutes, and we've already seen the 2-minute clip where Buddy's going crazy downstairs, I really don't know if I would put it past Art the Clown for him to do this. I just kind of hope not.
So much has happened in the last 24 hours, it's insane. California was hit with a 7.0 magnitude earthquake, which then triggered a tsunami warning, which was then cancelled. The French government has literally collapsed after their prime minister was booted out in the first successful vote of no confidence in over 60 years. Romania's constitutional court has just ordered their presidential elections to restart from scratch after intelligence documents suggested that the winner of the first round benefited from a mass foreign influence operation. People are calling for the Hawk Tour girl to be investigated after she launched a meme coin that dropped over 90% of its value overnight, losing people millions of dollars. The words carved onto the shell's use in the killing of United Health CEO claim to lead to this book titled Delay, Deny, Defend: Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It. The Czech Republic has just passed a bill exempting Bitcoin held for more than 3 years from capital gains tax starting 2025. The family of the teenage boy who fell to his death on the drop ride at Orlando theme park in 2022 has just been awarded a huge $310 million payout. TikTok lost its appeal to strike down the TikTok ban law, and NASA has just delayed its first mission to put humans on the moon in over 50 years to no earlier than mid-2027.
We learned a lot of info on that last bit of clips, bro. The Hawk Tour, the one that got to me as the Hawk Tour, bro. When I saw when she did that Hawk Tour, that meme pool, I'm just like, people just don't get it. And people still fail for that. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys comment down below, leave a thumbs up button, on this video. Also, hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch me in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.